going now take you from Florida to Michigan, from one peninsula to another in the north. And yes, it is in many ways the extension of the workshop that we had in the morning, so I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody who are working with us today at 9 o'clock and share with you a little bit of what we have been trying to develop at GVSU in terms of climate change education, trying to incorporate the ideas of teaching about sustainability, teaching about climate change in way much more than just one course. So I'm sure that many people are not familiar with Grand Valley. So we are an institution of about 25,000 students. We are actually one of 100 largest universities in the US, and we're the 5th largest university in Michigan. Which is very exciting for me is that we are now, just 3 days ago, it was announced that Grand Valley is the greenest institution in Michigan. And we also have several things to be proud of. We, just at the end of June, were named the 9th top college in the US based on the Forbes ranking, based on the way how students perceive, how students rank the places where they study. We have been very committed to sustainability. We are within the top 45. We are ranked 45th in the US by the ASHA stars. ASHA is the Association for Sustainability in Higher Education. And we have now about 392 undergraduate and graduate courses that address sustainability-related issues, and many of these courses are addressing climate change. So speaking of geography of this place, we are right halfway. We have 2 campuses. Our main campus is in Allendale. We're halfway between the beautiful beaches of West Michigan and the city of Grand Rapids. Grand Rapids the metropolitan area has about 1 million population, and the city itself is about 250,000 people. So it's not a very large city, but it's the 2nd largest city in Michigan after Detroit. And as I mentioned already, sustainability has been extremely important for us at all levels. Starting with 2005, we published our first sustainability indicator report, looking at various aspects of sustainability in our institution, including environment, including social justice, including patterns of economic development. In 2008, we joined the American College and University Presidents Climate Agreement, and since that time, we have been regularly trying to assess what is the climate impact of the institution. So we are measuring our carbon footprint on the regular basis, and we're trying to reduce our carbon footprint, and we're trying to involve our students to work with us as much as possible. I would say actually our students are trying to involve, I said something wrong. Our students are involving us. It's really driven much more by students rather than just by, by faculty or the administrators. But we have been very lucky to have very good senior management team who have really embraced the concept of sustainability from the very beginning. And we have been also fortunate to work very closely with the city of Grand Rapids, who is also very visionary, I would say, in terms of sustainable strategic planning. So this certainly helps. And typically, if you look at the way how climate education is addressed in the majority of the universities, the logical place for it would be curriculum, right? We want to teach about climate change, and in many places, that's it. If it's a research institution, you would see climate change typically being addressed in 2 places, teaching and research, and that makes sense. While we have been trying to go from these more traditional niches for education about climate change, we have been trying to incorporate completely different levels that are typically omitted. So I am going to talk today about how we can include campus infrastructure and operations as a resource for education about climate change. In other words, how we can work with facilities, how we can work with campus grounds, how we can work with dining operations, how we can work with water management on and using this in synergy, how we can include students in working with all those typically infrastructure support services, and on the other hand, how we can incorporate the infrastructure as an educational resource. Student organizations. Again, many students care about the environment, students care about climate change, but often we see big disconnect between what is happening at the level of student organizations and what is happening in the classroom. Well, we want really to come out of the classroom and integrate student organizations and work with them and make sure that what is meaningful for students after the class can be brought in a meaningful way, incorporated in class projects. We have been doing lots of work with our community, so community-based projects and service learning and community-based research are really integral part of education for climate change. So we try not to keep our students always in the traditional classroom, but actually going outside, and I will talk a little bit about this. And we have been really focusing on developing local, regional, and international partnerships around the concept of sustainability. So it's a fairly simple module, and I'm going to talk a little bit about each block. So of course, the most traditional, it's teaching and learning. But we want to bring teaching and learning into the infrastructure, and we want to bring it into the community and integrate it around the concept of sustainability and environmental education. So very brief overview of how we can use campus infrastructure as an educational research for climate change. Every university campus, and maybe not only university campus, right? Any large organization has its energy systems, food systems, systems including buildings and materials, water management, and transportation systems. And we have fairly large campus, so we have buses running around, we have many buildings, we have land. So we want to integrate all these resources and use them as a part of our classes. The way how campus community is organized, right? We can address governance, wellness, management of campus resources. Again, we want to think how we can incorporate all this in the way how we teach, how we organize student projects in a meaningful way. So I'm not going to read you all these numbers. I'm sure that this PowerPoint, will be available somewhere on the website of the conference. But I just want to give you some examples, starting with the food systems. So it's, there's clear connection between our environmental impact, our impact on climate, and the way how we manage our food system, what kind of food we eat, where we buy it, and so on. And so this is something that we increasingly wanted to incorporate again into our sustainability report and also work with students. So we have a number of courses, particularly honors college students, courses where students are actually involved in those decisions, and then they provide recommendations, the outcomes of their seminar, outcomes of the course, maybe in a similar model that you have experienced this morning in the workshop, but during the entire semester, then these recommendations can actually go to the university administration and influence their decisions about, for example, where they're buying food. Now, most of food that we're buying is local. Everything is coming from the local farmers. We have sustainable agriculture project. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it. So what it means that we have land, we have a farm, we have 2 hoop houses on campus, and there is a number of courses about agriculture where students learn about agriculture not in the classroom but within the sustainable agriculture project. So they are involved in the growing food, they're involved in a number of projects. Then this food is sold on campus on the farmers market every Wednesday, and students are interacting with the local farmers. The proceeds from this sales of food are going into our sustainability fund, and they're used to fund small student research projects. So you have this, closed system. The amount of money that students generate from the sales of food is going straight into the scholarships to support their projects in the sustainable agriculture system. The whole idea actually came from our environmental problem-solving course. It's a capstone in environmental studies. And so students were working in teams, and one of the teams came to the idea, why don't we create a community garden? And so they created this community garden in 2009, and since that time it has grown into fairly major research project where many classes are coming and they can experiment there, they can work in the hoop houses, they can set up their projects. Another idea, this is another class, Food for Thought. They worked with our Sustainable Community Development Initiative, they worked with campus facilities, and they decided that something really has to be done with composting on campus, and the model needs to be improved. And so they worked with the Sustainable Agriculture Project for several semesters, and they have completely reinvented their composting system. And I'm going to come back to this in my next example, because students realize that they should compost not just traditional waste, but pizza boxes, for example. Pizza boxes is a big waste on campus. So what can be done? So those are just some examples from our Sustainable Agriculture Project, some highlights. There are opportunities, many opportunities for work with the community, with the local organizations. So students work with food banks, they work with Kitchen Table, with Grand Rapids Food Justice, not-profit organization. They work with public schools. It's also an opportunity to bring the children from schools and teach them about agriculture and teach them about nutrition, and also teach them about our impact on the environment. And so those are actually Grand Valley students. And this is our Sustainable Agriculture Project. Another example, also directly linked to education about climate change, is focused on recycling and waste minimization. So composting from Sustainable Agriculture Project is just one example, but there's a number of other opportunities. I just want to highlight two examples. Again, the ideas came from students. They came from those brainstormers in the classroom. One is a zero waste football game. So starting with, 2 years ago, it happened for the first time. Now all the football games, and you probably, if you have experience with US campuses, you know that football is a very big deal in all American universities. And so typically football game would create huge amount of waste, and this waste would go to the landslide. So students have been working on minimizing the waste, and we had a number of zero waste. Now all our football games are zero waste. We have abolished bottled water. Bottles are banned and on Grand Valley campus. Again, it's a product of one of the student projects. They had to do lots of convincing, working with administration, but now we have water bottle filling stations everywhere, absolutely everywhere, but you need to bring your own bottle, and you can buy a very cheap bottle. Another great example, again, it's an idea that completely came from our undergraduate students. They have created this concept of eco-wraps. So it's a part of the peer-to-peer education program, and every dorm on campus had their own eco-representatives. Again, these students worked with sustainability office, with facilities, with housing, and they have collected in 15 months, they have diverted 25,000 pizza boxes from that they would go to the landslide. they were diverted to the composting. And when we have calculated all the number of pizza boxes, can you imagine, all the pizza that is consumed by about 24,000 students, we have realized that you can build 3 Eiffel Towers, one on top of each other, just from the pizza consumed by the students. So this kind of gives you an idea. I think it's a good visualization tool. You can just think about Tour Eiffel, right? And there are 3 of them just made of those stacks of greasy cardboard that could be a waste, but actually could also became something useful and was recycled and composted. So this is a picture of our first zero waste games. At that time, 61% of all waste was composted and recycled, and it's pretty good, I think, and it's going to be only better. So here's just one of the pictures when the members of Student Environmental Coalition are working, they work in collaboration with Compost Dining and Facilities and Sustainability Office, and so they also conduct those demonstrations when they actually sort the waste and they conduct their waste audits on campus. They identify where this waste is coming from, and then they make decisions. They make demonstrations to educate other students from other classes. But they also conduct those waste audits that allow them to identify where most of the waste is coming from and what are the best ways of recycling, and also what can be done to re-educate other student audience and faculty and staff members about what can we do better. Another example area is energy efficiency and optimization. And this is where we have done lots of progress since the time of our first sustainability report. And again, this is an area where there are so many opportunities of involving students through their projects and of helping facilities with the hands of students, but on the other hand, providing students with many opportunities to work on energy conservation and recycling energy. We have in West Michigan right now a huge debate in the community if we should or should not have windmills along the coast of West Michigan. It's an area with a huge potential for development of wind energy. I mean, Lake Michigan has great wind that's very much comparable to the Great Plains. There is also huge opposition in the community because we have amazing sunsets, and even though the size of this windmill that you will see will be probably like smaller than the thumb, but still there is a very big opposition. So we have a demonstration project on campus. So students have an opportunity to work with this smaller size windmill. They also work with our center called MARIC, Michigan Alternative and Renewable Energy Center, which is a part of Grand Valley. And so they can experiment and kind of build projects around different types of alternative energy, including solar, including wind, including geothermal, and can build their projects and also kind of test their experience in negotiations with the community organizations, with nonprofit organizations, and so on. Another area is water conservation. I mentioned already that we don't allow any more plastic bottles. All our events are completely free of plastic bottles. We also have quite a big problem with runoff because our rural campus in Allendale is located, it's literally sitting on the system of the ravines that are connected to the valley of Grand River. And it's a great educational resource because you can do lots of things. You can take students out of the building and go on the slope of the ravine and do soil sampling or do water sampling, do many things. But on the other hand, we have lots of problems with erosion because campus has grown a lot since the 1960s when it was created. So we had significant increase of runoff. We have significant increase of soil erosion. We are very much concerned about the health of our ravines. We want to make sure that we preserve considerable amount of natural ecosystems on campus. And so this was another opportunity to engage our geology majors, natural resources management students, biology majors, geography majors in measurements of the erosion. So we were able actually to produce data and then share this data with the university administration and say, hey, you just built this beautiful building. It's going to fall down in the ravine if we are not going to do something. And that's helped to switch, for example, to porous concrete. Right now we're using only porous concrete, even if it's much more expensive. We also have many rain gardens to help managing water on campus. We were able to recreate a number of wetlands, and we have a number of green roofs. So we're also working a lot in the community. This is actually a picture of my students and myself working, doing a bathymetry study in the Traverse Bay, north from Grand Rapids. And just a couple of more examples. I know I'm almost running out of time, but just kind of give you an idea. Alternative transportation options also was something that students really appreciate. And this is something that helped us a lot to reduce our carbon footprint, because we do have bus system. All our buses are free. They're running every 5 minutes between the downtown Grand Rapids and campus. And so this is something that really helps us to discourage students from bringing their car on campus, even if they're allowed to bring their car. But many students are now choosing either biking or using public transportation because this is a much better option for them. Sustainable purchasing is another area where, again, we can involve our public administration majors, business majors, geography majors in those decisions about what should be bought. And I just want to mention, probably what became our signature. We have now 15 LEED buildings. LEED building means leadership in energy and environmental design. So starting with 2008, Grand Valley made a decision not to build anymore anything which is not LEED certified. And again, we are kind of nicely positioned because Grand Rapids is the #1 city in the United States in terms of per capita number of LEED buildings per capita. So pretty much everything that has been built in the past 5-6 years has been LEED. And with this, I want to conclude that integration is the most important part of education for sustainability and education and climate education. So trying to think beyond traditional classroom, we want to think through greater student involvement, bringing administration on board, and definitely community engagement. So those are our major assets. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena, for that very interesting presentation. This proves that students do want to be engaged in sustainable practice. They're not apathetic about it. They want to have some responsibility to do the right thing for the environment, for their campus, for each other. And so this should be a great model for other campuses to follow suit, save money and save the environment and engage students. Do we have any questions for Dr. Lioubimtseva?
This is Giridhar from India. Are you using any recycling of water, drainage water, which are not seen in the slides?
So we definitely want to use water recycling opportunities as educational tools. So students are involved in our water management, storm water management plan and the design of the storm water management plan. So far, we haven't been. When you're talking about the recyclable water, what kind of uses do you mean?
recycling of drainage, wastewater coming from the houses, quarters, student hostels?
It's mainly green roofs.
Hmm. Okay.
So rain gardens and green roofs.
Ma'am, since here we are speaking about sustainable development mainly, so yesterday we had that conversation where there is, for petroleum engineer like me, there is always a difficulty in the balance between sustainable development and economic profit.
Mm-hmm.
So what are your thoughts on that thing?
I think this is a very important, your question is extremely important. I think we need to balance different priorities, and all the, considering our audience here today, we might all, be brought primarily together by our passion for the environment. But for the majority of the population of this planet, it's very important really to balance environment, economics, and social justice. And if we focus on the environment alone, we might sometimes forget, other everyday realities. So I think considering multiple bottom lines, probably more than just 3 bottom lines, because there is cultural, social, institutional, economic, and environmental priorities, and we definitely need to think about the balance.
We have one more question.
Okay. Elena, I think it's a very wonderful presentation, and it's a very useful from a student perspective, from institutional perspective. I just want to know, because I'm representing from developing country, right? So I think it would be very good for our world if there would be some exchange program, especially with this. So do you have think from that perspective?
I do, and actually we are also very excited about opportunities for our students to go abroad and work with universities in other countries. We have a very active international program, Partners International Program, that maintains right now exchange programs with about 150 universities around the world. So I just came back a week ago from France. We just signed an agreement with the University of Versailles specifically around sustainability. So it's an exchange program where students are going to learn, through a very similar philosophical approach. They have a very similar approach that I have addressed here. And our students go pretty much everywhere around the world. They have opportunities to work in Chile. One of my students just came back from Thailand. We have a number of other programs. We have a number of programs in Africa. Our students go every year to Ghana. So we are very, very excited about those opportunities, and we're definitely, planning to grow more partnerships.